Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. It's February 6th. It's 1 o'clock. We'll start the TAC meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Has everybody got their packet of information? The first thing on the agenda is to select the chair and the vice chair for the year. I am nominating Greg Swedenberg to be chair of coming year.
I'll second that.
Then we need a vice chair.
Well, let's do that.
You want to vote on that?
Let's vote on that one, so that one.
Okay. So we have a nomination and we have a second. Any conversation on that?
You want to do it?
Yeah. Steve had mentioned to me, I'd be happy to. Not great on Robert's rules of orders and things like that.
But Jennifer's here for that. Jennifer's there.
Help us with, but yeah, no, I enjoy being part of this. And would be happy to chair for the year.
So my thought on that is, not that I'm trying to shirk responsibility on this, is that if you remember the last conversations we've had and you see the notes, Greg is really interested in kind of looking at some other directions for the committee and the money. And I think as the chair, he'll be in a better position to lead those conversations. So that's why I approached Greg with that. So anybody else have any comments? All right, Jennifer,
We can just, all in favor?
all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed?
Libby? Raise your hand, Greg. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. Did the go to comments.
And I'll nominate Stephen Sinkler for vice.
I'll second that.
Awesome.
Great. Any conversation around that? Oh, Greg, you should be
Oh, yeah.
picking it up.
No, it happened all.
Happens right away.
Oof, you're it.
Do we have a second, any conversation on?
Nope.
That, then all those in favor of Stephen as the vice chair?
Aye.
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 All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. Very good. So we'll continue the meeting with the approval of the minutes from September 19th, which should be in the packet, and hopefully everyone had a chance to go over them. Are there any points of clarification or questions or comments on the minutes?
Steve or Greg, when I wasn't here. So the conversation around the let's see, where was it here? Second part of this. It's talking about we were given examples of where we had used funding somewhere. Well, maybe that was in your,
Wasn't that at the front?
yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, commission discussed the success of electric service being installed at the bandstand. In that discussion, you're clear, right, that we didn't pay for that?
Correct.
Okay.
It came out.
I wish we had, but
It ultimately came out of the parks.
right, okay.
The conversation started here, right? And then
Conversation was here and then it got,
took it someplace else.
the council actually pushed it to parks.
Yeah.
Just curious. Hi, Bruce.
Good. Other than that clarification, any questions or comments on the minutes? And we'll be looking for a motion to accept the minutes.
I moved to accept them.
Second.
Okay, then all in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
right, they are accepted as presented. So the really only agenda item that we have today is a discussion of the TAF goals, suggestions, concerns, which was, I think our last meeting, we kind of ended on that. Talking about, hey, what do we want to do for this next year? And it's in the minutes. I obviously had a position that I think, going 12 years into 12 or 13 years since TAC was created in 2010, and how the fund is used, wanted to have some discussion around that, because I think that there are, in my, I think 4 years now I've been on the committee, maybe somewhere like that. I kind of feel like I've got an understanding of, what kind of events come in and how useful they are. And we count heads and beds and all of that kind of stuff. But there's over time, over those 10 years, the money has gone like that. And we have a lot more money to manage and be good stewards of. And, I just throw it out there. Are there other things we can do with this within the OSR 320, guidelines and within the city guidelines? Because it was, it's pretty clear what TAC and the TAF fund were created for. I sent an email, I mentioned it, and I mentioned Tillamook County and stuff in the last meeting and some of the things they've done. I sent an email to about 40 or 50 people that I trust their opinions on and wanted to get it. And so if everyone has saw that or had seen it at some point in time, basically the question was, what would you like to see? And got a lot of feedback from people on, some things that are probably never be able to happen and a little out there. And some are very like I never even thought of and were good ideas.
Like what?
A lot of like path stuff that comes out in like the transportation study, paths, bike paths, trails, things like that, things that coincide with park type stuff. But you could argue that, it's also something that the tourists use and attracts it. I got feedback from a couple of moms that have kids that use the skate park all the time, and they were real big proponents of how we had a cover on it.
Oh,
Kind of thing. And if you've ever been to Lincoln City, they have one that over their park and skate park and basketball hoops and stuff. So you can use it year round or, when it rains. Things like that. Eric had mentioned something about kind of wayfinding signs around town, like on the garbage cans, to let people know, like, hey, your public restroom is this far away, rather than have signs everywhere, put them with the garbage cans. And then, we actually gave or did the money to the chamber to do the city signs that came back, but that's another one that people have brainstormed about. Had some about access ability and that, I don't know if there's parts of town that are not kind of accessible to people. And so some people brought that up of, gee, I wish this property had this and so forth. So there were a lot of good ideas, but the general idea of why I brought that up is because Tillamook County does such a great job with their dashboard of like, hey, here's what we use our TLT funds for. And there are some events, there are some ongoing things that they just fund, like the, of course, now I'm spacing at the Performing Arts Center, they're in Manzanita, the Hoffman Center, just gets money every year, and it's a no-brainer, and they don't have to prove anything. It's just funded because it's a good thing. And, I feel like we kind of also already do that with the coaster.
Yeah.
And some other things, the Arts Association and so forth. So anyway, I put it out there, got some good feedback. I was hoping that today we would have some kind of discussion of like, is that something that other people on the committee and the community think of? What are the ideas? I'm not a retailer, so being in retail, if someone's like, well, these festivals don't bring enough people to town, there might be a different opinion that I'm not thinking of. And I don't want it to come across like Greg doesn't like events and festivals, because that's not true. I just think as we get a bigger fund, we can pick some of those and some projects and some ongoing, places where money goes towards, that all help to make Cannon Beach a better place. And like Jim Keenwell used to say, invest in the product. And
product then rather than the.
yeah. And as we go through all the things, what got me is, I'm saying like, oh, $4,000 to this entity for advertising, and it's what we've done is we've spread it all out. And the chamber does some promotion, each event does promotion. And when we look back on that chunk of money, a good chunk of it was just spent on advertising and promotion. Was it really useful? Did it really turn, or could we do other things? And that's why I wanted to open to that discussion.
Well, so as long as Bruce.
When you're ready, I'll jump in.
So as long as I've been part of the committee, the focus has been events, right? Event-based. Let's fund events that draw in people from 50 miles and put heads in beds. But the trail, the bike trail, was the first time we kind of went outside of events to a project. And the project was met with some resistance, right? It didn't get funded the first time, it got funded the second time. It didn't get funded the first time, and maybe their presentation wasn't great, or the way they answered questions wasn't great. I don't know why the city council voted the way they did, but even this group was split on it because it was a new concept for us. But now when we look at it, I mean, there's mountain bikes coming into town every week, right? And I think it's a really good use of those funds. With that being said, the next time we suggested something that was outside of event money was the electrical system out at the city park. Now, that didn't end up coming through here, right? It went through parks, but the concept came from Greg and from this committee. And we thought it was worthwhile and we were going to fund it, except it got picked up by the city. So I think that there's appetite for a direction that's outside of events, that we still fund events, right? But we also look at what projects make the product better, and kind of look into other communities for, not for guidance, but for examples of what they did is a good idea. Because we also want to be cognizant of the state regulations and that we don't get into a position where there's that they're questioned or there's a lawsuit or, something. We don't want to put the city in that position. So I'm very supportive of us looking at outside of events to having some projects that we can fund that can make the community better. Signage, I think, is fantastic. Trails, I'm a big supporter. Yeah, I'm glad and looking forward to seeing how the committee kind of pivots a little bit on some of the things that they spend the money on.
I love the idea. And I think I mentioned in the last meeting, I was concerned about the bathrooms here in Midtown. And since I'm,
The cleanliness of them and
the cleanliness was part of the issue, but there's also long lines in the summer for the women's bathroom. What a big surprise. And because I'm so close to it, I hear about it all summer long and into the fall. So I have a friend who's on design review that apparently Karen is working on those bathrooms, but they had turned down the current plan, and there was money needed for something. And it's like, well, why aren't they asking us? That's kind of one of the things we talked about, and public bathrooms are absolutely under the statute. There's no question about that. And so I would love to see that happen faster rather than not. I didn't get the details on what the money was needed for, a redesign or something. I don't know, but to me, that falls right into the purview of that. And I would love to see that happen before summer, please.
So the money that's budgeted for this fiscal year currently is engineering or design. And so we'll have to budget construction money for the next fiscal year.
So it won't happen this summer.
Nope.
Well, the summer is next fiscal year. So July 1 is your next fiscal year. So
Okay. But it has to get built in the summer.
Funding might
and
get-
it also has to get through design review board and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway,
That's what's.
What's going to happen for the summer?
I would be sure in favor of doing something with that dang bathroom that needs to be bigger. So
I have a question about getting back to what we talked about in the last meeting, because you brought up the dashboard that those other entities had. And I thought we had talked about trying to do that locally. Didn't we ask for that to happen?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's on the list to do.
okay, I went and looked on the website today and I couldn't,
No, and
okay,
unfortunately, just things have been really crazy and busy. So that's still on our list of things to do.
okay, got it, thank you.
Is Olympics dashboard a Facebook thing? It looked like it was a Facebook thing.
Well, one that I think that I mailed came to someone who put it out on Facebook.
Okay, that's why.
You to the county website.
I see why. All right. Yeah.
Which I should have just gone to the county website and then it wouldn't say Facebook in there. But it's on the county website. It's under all their TLT stuff and.
I didn't go through an exhaustive, I didn't look through every project they've done, Greg, but maybe have they done any projects that kind of skirted the ORS?
Well,
Like on the edge?
skirted ones, they all look to me like they were
Well, like they pushed the envelope a little bit.
I
like-
didn't.
I mean, I think all of it's interpreted.
Bathroom.
Bathrooms,
Here.
absolutely.
They did a bathroom down in Wheeler at the boat docks, and I think they did another one.
Okay.
And so the concept is people come here with their boats, they park here and they go out and they crab and they're tourists.
Yes.
And so let's have a bathroom for
Put
them.
a bathroom.
I would go to the Supreme Court arguing that our bathrooms are used for tourists and not.
They almost entirely are.
Yeah, I mean, so that the apprehension to like, oh, we can't push the envelope on the regulations. I don't know where that line is, but I don't think they're skirting.
They could probably answer better, but I don't think
Yeah.
bathroom, yeah, I don't think bathroom is a problem.
Yeah, so and if I look through Tillamook's, they have some that they just flat out give money to this entity, every year because it promotes tourism and people come and stuff. And then they have other ones that, that are events, and they have others that are physical, and then they have a 10-year lifespan and whatever the other criteria are, which trails would or signage would or whatever. As a citizen, I'm just like, I see this bucket of money and then everyone's like, oh, we don't have money to do this. And meanwhile, we're advertising and stuff. And I think things have changed since 2010, and not to say it'll always be this way, but whether it be social media or, word of mouth or whatever, people are coming to the coast and not that, there are times of years where it dips, obviously, like right now. But for the most part, like putting something out in March when the spring breaks are happening, is we probably don't need to do that. Because people are going to be here.
Right.
And again, I don't know if everyone feels that way. I kind of feel that way.
Ashley's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashley Driscoll, City Attorney's Office. I didn't want to interrupt because I think the conversation's great. I just have a couple things to add. So I'm not familiar with the Tillamook County dashboard. I love the idea of a dashboard. What I look at is Econ Northwest puts out a report. I don't know if you have seen this, and it's for the entire state use of transient lodging tax. And they do have a variety of different projects, and you do get great ideas from it. But one of the things that I would be cognizant of when I look at any of these dashboards or reports is that when they're putting together these dashboards or reports, they're not taking into account if folks are using both restricted and unrestricted funds to fund these projects. Some jurisdictions collect, 100% of their transient lodging tax, they'll put towards tourist related things, and they'll report all of that. So in some of those projects, they could be using unrestricted funds or commingling unrestricted and restricted funds together.
Mm.
So I would be cognizant of that when you look through it. And then regarding the conversation about bathrooms, about trails, my 2 cents is that, I think Cannon Beach is incredibly well situated to push the envelope on a lot of the pre-existing ideas about what you can use transient lodging funds for. But each one of those analysis is fact specific. And I also would go to the Oregon Supreme Court arguing that your guys' bathrooms located across from City Hall primarily serve tourists, and they're a tourist related facility. But that same bathroom located in a park that's mostly used by residents, would probably not qualify. So it's going to depend on, where that trail is, who is it marketed towards, who is it serving. So I think you all know, but there's just no blanket, bathrooms are covered or trails are covered. It's very specific.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
thank you. And I think, to my knowledge, like you hear about Orla or the state coming back on anyone not doing it. They talk about Bend, and Bend was sued because they flat out just built, fixed roads, and they said, well, tourists drive on roads. And, that was probably a little bit of a stretch. I don't know if there are other cases out there, but
Lincoln City got sued for the same deal, was a road situation.
yeah. And I'm, the whole idea behind this isn't to, get one over on the state or push the envelope. It's what can we do to improve the product or improve our infrastructure and things around town, and the events. I mean, I don't want to discount that. I think there are some
Absolutely.
events that are absolutely great to have, and we should be funding those, and we continue to do that. But, you know, look at both. And what are the things that we can do that improve the product and for locals and visitors alike. And meet the criteria. And I think that there's a lot of things out there if we open up what we can look at.
Well, one of the things last year during the application interview process, I asked each applicant about could they use the school, right? How could they use the school? Could they use the school as part of their event? And each one of them said, absolutely, the school could be a site for something with their events. Yes,
Great segue. May I come up?
come on up.
Hey, Bruce.
For the record, Bruce St. John, the city manager. Greg, thanks for bringing this up, and that was the best segue I could have asked for. The project is going very well. Got a lot of excitement behind it. And there's also a lot of enthusiasm for certain aspects people would like to see. And we're combining that with a timeframe that the cost of financing has gone up significantly. Cost of construction is probably up 20-25%. And we started out trying to fund that project totally with TLT funds. And the county is building the jail. And they wanted the 30% to be able to pay for their staffing. But they said, well, we'll just give the 70% back to the cities. And they've not taken any specific action. But, we've had some inquiries with the county administrator, and he says, we understand commitments have been made. So we don't think that's something that they're going to take back at any point. So we've got a baseline to be able to use for debt service for the money that's coming in every year. We're aware now that we're doing the cost estimates and things with the construction manager and the architect, that the amount of money that's coming in is not going to get us the project that we are looking at. And so we are trying to maintain that it doesn't have to be funded with taxpayer dollars. And so we're trying to do it, based on the funds that are coming in from the visitors. So what we will probably be discussing in the budget is trying to find some funds that are available from TLT. And people can think of a lot of projects that we could do with TLT, and I agree. The problem is all of our TLT is committed to something. And so we just can't go and say, well, we'll go ahead and do that and build this bathroom. So what I would ask that you folks consider, and I believe that the council will probably be thinking about, is it possible to dedicate some of the funds that you folks have to the debt service, which means it would be an ongoing expense, to the debt service of that structure, or actually, the overall facility. And that would allow us to, again, have enough more for debt service to be able to go ahead and build a pretty cool plan that we're looking at now. So nothing for sure, but when you're putting that out, that's, as you said, I think it was you that said it, everybody said, yes, we could use that. So it's not just a destination in itself. It's also a destination that can support other activities. And that's how it's being set up. And one of the cool things that's going on is much across the front of the classrooms, along the rest of the gym and along the north side of the gym is a 15-foot portico that goes out over it. We could have people come in, farmers market, come in, go ahead and set up and then park someplace else. And then we could actually have that can become part of an event while everything else is going on a day. We're going to have 3 classrooms, 1,000 square feet, to be able to go ahead and handle all sorts of things. And then you've got, an amazing gym. And if anybody hasn't seen the gym, let me take you down there because it's amazing. And it's all the rafters are painted, and we're looking to bead blast that and get it all down to the raw wood.
That look nice.
So you said everything, all the TLT funds are committed, but don't we have a reserve?
You have a reserve, but it is committed to TAC. So there are, yes, if you folks wanted to allocate or council was to, try to ask you folks for some, that's fine. But right now, whatever comes in is it's 70% of 1%.
Yeah.
Goes to you. So that's allocated in my mind.
But when you say us, what you really mean, it's city councils, right? We serve at the,
Right. Yeah.
so it's really city council that can say, we'll fund these 2 events, but all the rest of it goes to the school.
It could, and I don't see that, but I don't see that happening. But I think that since you folks are talking about that sort of thing and acknowledge that it is an important feature for the city, and then it's got even sub aspects to it, that's something that I want to make sure that didn't get neglected in that conversation.
And then you said something about the bathroom there. Are you saying that we can't recommend that we give or tell the council that we would like to help get that done?
Which bathrooms over here?
Yeah, these that are being done.
Again, Ashley has said that that's site and fact specific, but I think the conversations we've had is as she said, it's clear that is a tourism bathroom.
Right.
Well, I want to put some caution on what folks' expectations are, is that we have a lot of restrictions over there. We have force mains, we have all sorts of things. And so even when they're reconstructed, it's not going to be a lot bigger than what is there now. We would require a new site to be able to go ahead and expand that. Now, I think it'll be a little bit bigger, so we don't anticipate having to bring in portalets to support it. But that's about as much as we're going to get out of that, I think.
We recently found out, because the original design was 2-story, and we found out we can't do a 2nd story.
The first story is not strong enough for it.
Oh.
That's one.
Yeah.
Bruce actually just was educating us on how not all trails and not all bathrooms are equal.
Mhm.
So how does it square with using the money for debt service on a loan? You must have talked to somebody about this already. You can't use money to renovate a bathroom in a park used for locals, but we can use the money to pay debt service on a loan.
That's an Ashley question.
Is that what you're saying?
Would you like me to take that?
I just was curious if that's been vetted, that idea.
We've looked at this. So what Bruce is suggesting is that the TLT, more of the TLT funds would go to debt service for the Cannon Beach Elementary School rejuvenation project. Is that what you're saying, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be a tourist related facility. So, be improved real property, useful life of 10 years or more, substantial purposes serving tourists. So yes, if something is a tourist related facility, you can use the TLT funds to maintain it, to provide the debt service on it, to quote unquote fund it.
Good.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashley.
How much are you thinking you would want every year?
Great question. I don't know, because we're just getting our estimates.
Okay.
And the bond rates have changed so much. I don't know what it would cost us per, whatever unit you want to use. So we should have that in less than 30 days
But okay,
and, have a good conservative number on the car, pardon?
By March.
so we
Yeah.
would know that by the time we're looking at asks from the rest of the community for stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Both Rusty and Jenna helped me tremendously on this project, and Rusty just said March.
Okay, then it's March.
Yeah.
Hand up by Libby too.
Libby has a question.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess my question is that the money then isn't going into the TAC, it would be partitioned off. I'm just trying to.
Before coming
Before
to
it comes
us.
to us, so our budget could be reduced, or it's escalating and you're taking it. Okay, I got it answered, but.
But actually, I don't have an answer for you. We've not gotten that far in the discussion.
Okay,
But it's just that we think that the available funds, the 70% and the 30% from the county, will not get us with all the features that we're looking at putting into that facility.
okay. And I guess
So I guess what she was asking was that the number that we will be considering for allocation across the different asks
Mhm.
may or may not include an amount that's earmarked for debt servicing for the school renovation.
Assuming the council,
I honestly don't know.
Not there yet.
Don't know.
Yeah.
No,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
And if you look at what Tillamook County does, they do it, you know, it's a county, obviously not a city, but like Pacific City asks for XYZ each year, you know, and then for 5 years, they get 20 grand for whatever that project was. And in my mind, that's how, you know, the city would come and say, hey, this is our project, and it would come out of the TAF fund. I mean, that's how it looks if you just draw a parallel to how they do it.
Yeah, but this would be over a long period of time and we would establish what it is going in.
But given that that is dependent upon interest rates, which is why it's gone up. So here's how I'm envisioning it. We get together with all the asks. We usually have enough to put into a reserve. You would come and say, we would like $100,000 from that. And so we would look at that 100,000 for this and then all this rest of the money and whatever.
Mhm.
But the next year it could be $150,000. Depending on what happens with interest rates, it might change over time, correct? Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just trying to, it's not like you're $100,000 every single year for the debt service, because it
That's-
might go up or down.
No, that's what it is. If it's $100,000,
It's going to stay at 100.
because it's a fixed rate on the bond.
Okay. Oh, it is. So it does, it's not going up and down based on what happened. Okay, gotcha. I got it.
Just depending on when you take out the bond.
Yep, I got it. Okay.
You don't get to refinance?
You can refinance, with bonds, you can refinance like after 10 years or something. So there's a whole science behind all of that. At one point, we were trying to see if we could time the bonds on City Hall and the Cannon Beach Elementary, because there's a significant expense called cost of issuance. And some of those things, you know, if you do them all at once, you only pay them once as opposed to twice. But I don't know if we'll be able to accomplish that. City Hall is probably going to move back a little bit on schedule. And we already have a bond. We had a bond of 4.6 million for Cannon Beach Elementary. And so we may just have to go out for another bond on top of that. But I just wanted to, you know, keep it in your thoughts that we've got a big thing that's going to be a tourism thing, can support other tourism activities. And it's going to be, it has the potential to be spectacular. And that can be one of our biggest draws. I mean, it's not the Rock, but nothing's the Rock. But anyway, but that's the, so if you just keep it in mind. And we've not had a discussion with council yet on this at all. We're just coming up on budget.
Right.
And then from a timing perspective, I put in the packet a draft schedule for next year. I did have a typo on the bottom. The white is supposed to be the budget 23, 24. So I'm anticipating our application would be due June 7th. So we interview in June, making our decision. The decisions need to be made for the council packet by June 30th. So it's be a and then those sections that are blank, it's just because we need to come up with dates. I know you're thinking I'm not gonna be.
I get to skip that one. It's new for me.
Me neither.
It's
Oh
new
my
for me.
God.
Yeah, Jill,
I'm gonna miss
that
it.
one.
Well, I guess for the rest of the TAC members, we do have 2 people that are turning out the end of April. So we will be advertising for 2 positions. Julie and Greg both
Get to get out.
will be finishing up their 8 years.
Did my 8. You did your 8. 8 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, my best.
It does.
Sure does.
Hey, Greg, just something that's on my mind since seems to be a growing sentiment among residents that they'd like to have the city back in the summertime. Just curious how as we go forward, I mean, that sentiment has ramped up over the last 8 years that I've been on this committee. And I don't think it's I mean, Art Cape's restricting short-term rental permits on for that very reason, because residents are bitching about too many, excuse my language, complaining. Too many tourists in the summer, all the houses are filled with tourists and can't have, our kids can't walk in the street because cars are driving too, all that stuff, right? I'm just curious. Maybe I don't have a point. I'm just wondering how we as a committee balance the needs of the residents with the needs of the businesses and stuff that rely on tourism dollars.
I would argue that that is not a new thing.
It's not a new thing. It's just getting worse.
No, and in my opinion,
I mean, you're all business owners, so
but the vehicle, which when you hear that, is also getting louder. So it's social media and it's
Yep.
things like that. There's always been people griping about it. It's just now it has a bigger web.
which to me makes the step service more interesting. Because if you funnel money toward a project like that, maybe the town getting around behind that, it's building the school up and doing something cool with an asset that we have here in the city, as opposed to putting on another event.
When the city created this committee,
Yeah.
they put parameters on no summer events. And so the idea was, they already recognized at the time that there were plenty of people coming in.
That stuff going on in the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do we bring people in slower seasons, right? To help the businesses survive December,
Winter.
January, February, when it's really quiet and it's raining and it's cold and nobody wants to travel here. So I think that's why we're seeing events. I think that's why the structure is the way it is. So I think that's how we, as a committee, participate in the no additional events in summer.
The reason I brought it up is I saw you'd made a comment about talking about maybe modifying the shoulder season
Right.
dates.
Well, I've always,
Or close.
because it's what is it, September through
Yeah,
May?
May,
June.
something like that. Yeah.
It's September through June in the city document.
Yeah, right.
So June be thrown out. September should be, in my mind,
Right.
so, September's busier than August.
That's right.
So, if I rule the world, I would be like.
Telling people to come here in September.
Yeah.
We'll come in August, come in September, right?
Yeah,
And so
Yeah.
people come in September, now we're like, oh, it's too busy.
Come in October.
It's coming October.
I think it's October 15th through May 1st.
I like that.
Is what I go by, but I think to your question about the people wanting their city back and stuff. I think as a committee and as an entity of the city, if we are saying like, hey, we do promote some events, but here they are and they're good time of year. They draw people like them, they're positive, but they're not spending money for the sake of just having an event. But we're using that money to do this thing, which helps, when visitors get here, it helps them navigate the town or it helps them go to the bathroom or whatever the thing is. It promotes that.
Mhm.
I think, and this goes back to the parks thing, but whoever paid for the
Fan show?
well, no, the parks did that. I think that was a fantastic idea. In fact, I think it could be expanded on someday. Whoever funded the pickleball stuff, those courts are getting used more than they've ever been used.
Big time.
Ever, other than Mike and his Bruce that play tennis every day.
3 indoor pickleball courts.
Yeah, in the gym, yeah.
So
And-
Perfect.
And only $250 a net, I heard, for each of the pickleball.
Not a bad deal.
yeah, so the return on investment and the thing, and then when someone comes here, I've got guests in our hotel that bring their pickleball stuff.
Sure.
Never did that before.
I
You know?
played with a couple from Arizona this summer. I played with a couple from Florida, and they all travel with it.
Yeah,
Pickleball's a thing.
It's
And-
an expectation almost at this point that your town have it for some travelers.
And we're looking at a possibility of trying to go ahead and have a tournament throughout the county. You play in different places over a couple of days.
There you
I
go.
mean, this could really help a lot of people.
oh yeah, off topic, but my kids are in the EPL tournament, which is the basketball tournament in Seaside right now.
Mhm.
And the economic impact that Seaside sees in January, I've seen reports like $4, $5, $6 million
Mhm.
from all, we played at Woodburn yesterday, we played Pendleton yesterday, we played, these are all families coming in. So that kind of thing, using the facility that we're talking about is huge. And I think when you explain it to, because I think the reality is that most people are like, oh, city has all this money and they spend on, and specifically advertising and promotion and stuff. And that has happened before, but I think as a group, we're not doing that. We're trying to be aware of where that money is going and that it has a good return on investment. And so. Anyway.
The things that we're trying to do, I mean, our tentative scheduling philosophy is that nothing that's going to be driving a lot of people to come, other than the facility itself, would be in the evening or in the shoulder season. I mean, we don't need to bring a reunion of the Beatles in July. But we can go ahead and schedule those kind of things that can, work a lot more during that off season. But we're not going to overcrowd the city by bringing people in for something that is not necessary.
Well, and for the city, we just saw that the Corgi
thing
got canceled, right?
Didn't get permitted.
Didn't get a permit, and that was something outside of our purview. That was something outside of the chamber's purview that always was in the middle of July and just was more people on top of it people.
But the permit, we don't give a permit except for a location to put restroom.
Mhm.
It's a state issue.
They did it right.
And we tried to get them to have the state do a permit for them for restrooms like what we do with Sandcastle. So we never did deny them a permit. But we did say, would you mind coming like in September?
Right.
Something like that, but we'd never denied them a permit.
Well, and that goes back to my point of what I was going to say is Greg is when we talk to these events, we try and steer them away from early September, mid-September to.
Like we've
and the
done.
Same thing from June.
Sure.
What do May, try and hit May, try and hit April, right? So I think this committee, we don't want to listen to the loudest complainers on Instagram, right? Or on Facebook, because it's the same singers singing.
They're always
the same
over here,
song,
one
right?
side or the other.
And so, but they're residents, so we got to hear what they're saying, but really this committee's done a really nice job working with the events to try and move them to times where the city's not as full and it can really help the businesses versus negatively impact citizens. And then the other comment I have is I go back to last October, right before the elections, when the Kosher Theater hosted the candidate evening with the candidates. There was specifically a question about the transient lodging tax and the way the tourism dollars are being spent. And it was to each one of the candidates. And I'm sitting in the front row, right? And I was the chair of the committee. And I'm like, okay, let's hear what the candidates have to say. And to their credit, there were really no negative comments on how the dollars are being allocated, which to me said that this group is doing a pretty good job.
We're supposed to be doing.
Right? We're doing what we're supposed to be doing with it. And nobody really had a big beef. There were suggestions about trails and other things, but really no one said, oh my gosh, what a mess that is. Right. And so that goes back to this group has done a pretty good job of looking at the intent of what the city has given us, looking at the events and trying to allocate dollars in a way in the events and push the events to times where it really is beneficial to the city and not a detriment to the residents.
Yep.
I think the evolution of this committee can be towards managing conflict between residents and tourism. And I think about how it drives me nuts when people come into the hotel and ask where the bathroom is. And so that's why Eric and I have, been obnoxious about the public bathrooms and signage, because that's something that, I'm sure isn't just annoying to me. Julie, you probably get that question constantly too, when you can see it from your place of business.
Well, you can't see it from my place of business, and that's the issue. It's like, where is it? But I agree with you on the signage. And it's like, okay, you can't see it from here, but trust me, if you walk past that little bagel shop, it's right there. So they're like,
There's a red bench over there. Just go around that.
With the for lack of a better term, animosity that I hear from other residents about the tourists in town. You know, I try to break it down into what are your actual complaints about, you know, the visitors that come to our town, and then what can we do? And I think we have money to be able to do that, to mitigate those
Sure.
things. And that's why I like.
And that's the new direction, that's the new direction of this group, right? Because it's
Yeah.
always been event-based.
Mhm.
What events can we bring in to bring people into town during these specific period of time,
Sure.
right? So it's kind of a
I
new.
would say, since I wasn't on the committee at that time, but I was involved, you know, sort of peripherally involved because my friend was on it. There were hardly any events. I mean, the
Right.
events were the chamber ones.
Coaster and.
And there was a few from the gallery group.
Right.
But man,
Spring and
it
Valley.
was like, there was no way to start an event.
Oh.
And so that's kind of how it was funded for the arts, of course. So it makes sense that it sort of started out on that position, and then it sort of became like, well, can we fund other things other than that? So I don't think, I mean, is there any pushback from this group at all about this issue? I don't think there is. I think everybody was okay about working on the product and not necessarily the events.
I like working on the product.
I wholeheartedly am for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
think that's.
I go back to, I need to read the traffic study again from the gist that I got from it. And maybe Bruce, you can enlighten us a little more, was that there wasn't anything that was a huge impact at this point, but I look at 4 intersections, 3 or 4 during the summertime, where I see a lot of things, close calls. And I go back to what about traffic people, or, you know, I mean, people step off, I call it vacation brain, you know, they step off the curb and don't realize anything. And I've seen a lot of close calls, or, you know, you don't have to stop to take a right. And I mean, we all know these little areas that are a little tricky, but those are the quality things that I think a lot of people, I mean, locals that are like, oh, you know, I can't go to the post office. I can't, you know, maybe I'm a little more sensitive to that. I don't know, but that's what I hear from town is I just don't even want to go out. I can't drive, bike, or walk, you know, it's a little more precarious. So I don't know. I mean, to me, I'm like, can't we have people kind of on those heavier event weekends, or when we know it's going to be totally crazy, help direct some of that?
Interesting.
I can comment on that, because we tried it.
Oh,
Yeah, what happens is, let's use the Sunset Boulevard.
Mhm.
yeah,
Traffic can back up all the way back to.
The highway.
Highway.
yeah,
Highway.
the off ramp.
But so a car comes up, and we've had police officers there. And it's still backing up out onto the highway, and you can't let anybody out. Because there's 2 crosswalks that everybody has to stop at within a couple of 100 feet. And so as long as there's somebody walking across, you can't allow that right turn, which really would help to clear out that intersection.
Right.
And so it's a, you got the combination of people and cars, and you got a very heavy load of cars and people. And so there's not a way to go ahead and make them move faster. You know, like at least in that particular location. And we do allow people to cross, you know, mid blocks and things. And
Yeah,
so that's what is it's not just somebody waving traffic through or
yeah.
whatever.
Did I hear someone talk about better signage from the highway though, to like redirect that left turn coming off of Sunset? Like, so we aren't getting the double? Does that make sense? Like Tolavana? I don't know. I thought I heard rumblings of that, but you know,
I'm not aware of that.
okay.
And I'm not sure how that'd be tough to get by ODOT. But again, what would happen is you alluded to, is that they go to another place. So now Tolavana backs up too.
Yeah,
And now we've got the 4-way stop, which hopefully that will help some. And they don't have the load that we do downtown and midtown.
Okay, thank you. I kind of sidetracked that, but that was just a comment that I hear a lot is
Yeah.
just maneuvering, again, trying to get down to get mail at the post office, whatever. And, you know,
walk.
yeah, exactly.
When I have someone complaining about that, when I have a resident complaining about mail, I'm like, well, when do you go get your mail?
Yeah.
"Oh, about 11 o'clock. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
You're going out this hour.
Go at
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, go 10 or go at 6 or
Yes.
don't go on Saturday, go on Sunday.
Right.
Right?
Part of the problem is, I think if you, the two areas I see that are the worst is Second and Hemlock, which I
Yeah.
avoid.
It's
Egg.
one of the worst intersections in
And
town.
down here,
My front door.
and the problem is the only way to fix it is with a light. And you say that to this
Oh,
community,
boy.
I know.
But like,
Second and Spruce is worse than Second.
it wouldn't help.
a light would help
Can be.
pedestrians stop. The pedestrians become the problem then.
The
Yes.
pedestrians are at the Legion and
Sleeping.
right over, yeah,
Yeah.
Sleepy Monk. That's where the pedestrians,
See what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's
They
after
cross
that.
Those crosswalks, right?
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Doing from
not at that corner.
Second and Hemlock would totally be fixed with a light, but nobody wants to put a light up there. But I don't, and when it comes past May, I just don't even go through that intersection. I will go through Driftwood parking lot. I will do whatever I can because the pedestrians, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
Nobody tells them to stop.
Right.
And so you will sit there and the traffic backs up past the post office because nobody can get through.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's got nothing to do.
I've always,
I
We
know.
can't fix
I
that.
tried that every day and I don't think that's as bad as Spruce and Second. I think Spruce and Second is worse than.
That's the one I meant. That's the most dangerous intersection.
Pretty
By
bad.
the restroom?
Right, but
That's one of the most dangerous ones in
Yeah,
town.
that is.
I'm surprised someone hasn't been killed.
Never drive that.
I'm
street.
surprised. Because summertime it is a
I
dangerous.
drive it twice a day and I'm never.
So- hopefully the traffic or the transportation study addressed that. Those same complaints came up during the transportation study. I've always thought that we should have July and August traffic mimes, kind of dressed like John Fraser used to do in the one.
It's great.
It's like, go through.
That'd be awesome. Great. Traffic mimes.
Never stuck. So,
That's too bad.
anyway, so it sounds like there's not a lot of opposition to opening up the things. And I don't know how it works at a city level. We have a document that was created in 2010 that says this is the charter of this committee. How do you go about amending that or, I mean, obviously some thought and detail has to go into it before you.
Does our charter
But-
preclude it being used for product? Does it?
It doesn't explicitly say.
Recently, and I don't, doesn't really say, and I imagine at any point in time, the city could, I imagine the process is you would take it to city council, say, hey, we want to change the rules here. These are the new rules. Are you okay with it? I don't know how it works.
Aren't we?
But I would defer to Ashley to see if they're in the interpretation of the existing rules without having to change rules.
Yeah.
She feels like we can spend money on these types of projects.
Is the charter in here in our packet?
Not in this one. You have to
So
look.
I think you're referring to the code section that, there's two documents. There's first the code section that delegates authority to this committee, which is chapter 232. And I'm just, reading it along.
Mhm.
It doesn't sound like it is completely restricted. It doesn't say anything about events or really restricted just to the arts. It's Tourism and Arts Commission.
Right.
So then, and under that, you have the authority to develop rules and procedures regulating the distributions, and then essentially you recommend those to council. And I think that's the second document in here, the guidelines for administration of this fund. And what I think I hear you guys saying is that you want to expand this document to improve, what I hear you, the term you're using is to improve the product. And of course, I'm hearing that within the legal constraints. And so I think if that's what you guys wanted to do, I would propose amendments to this document and then we take them to council. Bruce, do you have any input on that?
I do, but would you close your ears when I do it?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
No, she won't.
She won't do that, Bruce.
I guess the way I look at it is that if we're doing it to me, I mean, we are improving the product now. That's evolved.
Yeah.
And I remember a long time Julie came into my office and was talked about, we need to improve the product and that stayed with me. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
But we're doing it. And so I'm not sure if changing the document would help any.
I don't think so
I
either.
know that you can go ahead and cause a whole bunch of, controversy with it when people start, assuming what you're trying to do. So I would kind of stay the course.
As long as it doesn't preclude us working on the product. Why does the charter need to change?
Amendment to the.
Yeah.
Because that may open up.
My question to Ashley is,
Yeah.
based on the way that it's written right now, the new direction, does the new direction comply with the way that it's written right now?
Right.
And it sounds like
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure
mean,
if
I
the
think
old
you can
direction
make-
can apply.
But
What's that?
sorry, Ashley.
Yeah, I think you can make some arguments that it does. So general guidelines, subsection B, use of Taft resources may include but are not limited to personnel, special events, signage, attractions, owner occupied facility development, promotional materials and advertising, which furthers tourism in the city. And the other thing is, I mean, when push comes to shove, you guys recommend funding choices to the council. And so if the council doesn't believe that it fits the criteria, frankly, they can overrule you.
Sure.
They have.
Yeah, trying to amend is probably more dangerous than just staying the course.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. So,
It used to be that the city council, at least the meetings I attended, specifically Councilman Benefield, was always about the arts, not tourism. Is any feel for how the current council looks at this? Are they weigh them both, like tourism and arts? I haven't been to a meeting in a while. I didn't.
Yeah, it does actually say that in the purpose. The purpose of the Tourism and Arts Commission is to see the expenditures from TAF used to attract tourists to the city through efforts directed related to marketing and enhancing the arts in Cannon Beach.
And we've had multiple conversations where we presented, I was one of them doing the presentation,
Sure.
where it's like, but what has this got, Clutchie Creek, what has this got to do with the arts? And it's like, it doesn't. It is
Tourism.
specifically for tourism, but doesn't it have to be the arts? No, not unless you tell us it does. And nobody's gonna sit there and say it has to be arts. Because the city council has never been willing to actually put that in the thing that it has to be art related.
Good.
But they all want to complain about, well, this isn't art related.
Well, this isn't the Arts Commission, right? We're not an Arts Commission. We're a tourism.
And
Tourism and Arts Commission. So they have never been willing to actually put their foot down and say it has to be art related.
good,
And until they are, then
we keep going.
we keep, saying Clutchie Creek.
Yep.
As an example.
And the evaluation criteria, again, I do agree with you that there's room to argue it. The evaluation criteria says, does the program enhance the arts or tourism in Cannon Beach?
Sure.
So, the direction that I think, sorry, I don't know your name, the commissioner was just talking, I think makes a really good point. Like there isn't a super clear direction that it has to be arts in here. There is room to argue that other programs could comply.
So if you want to make an amendment, then tourism or arts and recreation. And Clutchie Creek would be included.
Yeah, arts and rec.
Well, they got their money after all, so.
it's covered by tourism.
The TARP committee. I think it's.
Yeah, anyway.
So then I guess like in my mind, how do you put that out to applicants? So right now on a given year, we usually get 18 applicants, then most are events.
Yeah.
How do you put that out there? Hey, this year, we're also interested in the city wants to come with a bathroom proposal and we might have some funds for it, or we might, whatever. How does that get put
I
together?
mean, who else is going to come up with that kind of proposal except for the city?
But the city can't apply because it's not a 501c3.
Right.
So I guess.
But we can make the recommendation to say, okay, we've approved, here's what we think you should do for events. And in addition, council, we would recommend that you do $100,000 to service the debt and $50,000 to help get the bathroom done. That's up to you guys, but we recommend that, whether or not somebody has come and asked for it.
Yeah,
Am I thinking about that right?
I think so.
Is that good, Ashley?
Say that again? Sorry, I was rereading this document.
Oh, that's okay. So we're trying to figure out who would come and apply for such a thing like a trail, a bathroom,
That's-
like Bruce said, the debt service on the school. And to my way of thinking, nobody's really going to apply for it. The city can't apply for it. And who else would come and say, I want to build a trail? Nobody. So it seems to us that we would go ahead and look at all the applicants that come and do events or whatever they have. And then we would have to come and say, in addition, council, we think maybe we would approve doing $100,000 to service the debt on the school and $50,000 to help with the bathroom or $50,000 to finish the trail or whatever. And then we hand that over to the council and then they would approve such a thing, or, well, they can say no to everything if they want and say, we all want to give it to all the school and everything goes to the school and no events. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, I believe this came up last year with funding the dome, right? That $50,000 to electricity in the concert venue. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah,
It wasn't.
Yeah.
it came up, but it wasn't 50 grand.
A few years ago, and we ended up pulling the money out of parks because they got the funds to get it done right then and there.
We couldn't apply. We couldn't do it. Right.
Right.
That's, yeah. it
Yeah,
had to be
I
done.
mean, I don't see a restriction here, and I'd want to take maybe a little bit of a closer look that all the funds have to be distributed, or you have to make recommendations to these nonprofits that apply, that you couldn't set aside some funds for city programs.
So that's an interesting question, Bruce.
Mhm.
Using money from TLT to pay debt service on their loan
Mhm.
isn't necessarily a formal application to
Right.
TAF, right?
It's Bruce coming and saying,
Right.
please.
Right. So to your point, I mean, I don't know why there couldn't be, we can make recommendations to the city council and say we have an idea for a project like the band shell. Without an application. There's no nonprofit involved. It's just, hey, city, we think this makes good sense.
Because it's going to be over a long period of time, I think.
Siri didn't like that, Bruce. No, Siri doesn't happy.
I ask Siri, basically, I ask Siri everything.
I should have asked her this question, but she.
Yeah. Is it would, because if you would agree on the money, or the council was to do something about the money, you would no longer have discretion to use it because it would be dedicated to the debt service.
Right.
So we would probably take that amount out when you were given the allocation
Makes sense.
for your annual allocation.
But I was to Julie's point, let's say you wanted the bathrooms. I mean, theoretically, the TLT could bring that to the city council and say, there's no formal application for this. No citizen came and said, we need to redo the bathrooms. No nonprofit applied.
Right.
We just think it makes good sense and we have money for that. And it's a tourist related activity.
I don't think it's happened since you guys were in existence. But I think that if you had a program like that, like you want to do something with the restrooms,
Yeah.
if you were to say, we will forego our allocation of that amount of money for this year to the city, then it stays with the city, because at some point the city puts it over into your account.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So if you agree to it and you
Yep.
propose it, we would take that out before it goes in,
Allocated.
back in after.
There's just no application.
There's no
It's not like
application.
Karen is here saying, I'm going to put a form in that says I need $200,000 for the bathroom. So I guess then the question for me would become, we have no way of knowing what it's going to take to get that done other than coming to you or Karen or council, since you're working on budget, and saying, hey, we want to make sure that that gets done.
How much?
What kind of money needs to happen for that? There's no application and there's no way for us to know what it's going to take to get that done.
Right.
It would have to be you guys saying, well, it's going to be this much money.
Unless, with all the comments that, like you and Hannah get about where the restrooms are and all that and signage, that's something that you could come and say, we're getting so much feedback on this. We think it's something that needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. And then we could talk about, how it might be funded. But like right now, we're funding the restrooms. That was just actually,
Oh, I thought, so my design review person said there was some issue. I don't know. I just have a friend on design review who said, yeah, it got turned down and it looks like there needs to be more money for something to make sure that it happens. And it's like, oh, well, why aren't they coming to us? Because we have money and a bathroom is a tourist thing.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than.
I'm sure, no doubt about that, Bruce, but we were just chatting over dinner about, it's like, it'd be nice to get that done. And so I was just asking the question because I would like to have it done. It
Yeah.
would sure help my life.
But that's the track that we're on on next Tuesday. The city will appeal and
Oh, appeal the design review?
Yeah.
Issue? Okay,
council, yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Okay. I know I'm departing the committee, Greg, but I'm completely supportive of the idea of going down this path of not necessarily project-based, but more encompassing, more opportunity. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's why I brought it up. I think there's positive there. How to steer it in that direction and make it so, that's what I don't know how that works. But
The only issue might be some of the events that we have funded that we know are never gonna make money, like Get Lit and stuff like that. If it ever comes down to, we don't want to fund those anymore, then probably some heads up should be given since we know that Get Lit isn't gonna happen.
That's right.
That's fun.
Right.
yeah,
I'm not sure about the tour,
Cottage tour?
yes, the cottage tour. Because we've talked about that being self-funding
Self-sufficient,
for a
right.
while, although they would love to have our money, but it is September. And so
Yep.
I just think that those people who've been getting money from us year after year should be let know if we're not going to do that anymore.
You know what? I think that we could have conversations and get creative on that kind of thing. Because Get Lit is kind of a natural place to use a venue like Cannon Beach Elementary.
Oh,
It is.
And
Perfect venue.
if we're sponsoring events, and we've not had a lot of discussion about this, but if we're sponsoring events, then the venue is covered. If they want to go ahead and proceed, and then we figure out what if there's financial aspects or whatever, but we make it part of that program for Cannon Beach Elementary. Because right now we don't have anything like that. So I think that we can find ways to continue those kinds of things.
no, that makes sense. Like in my head, when I think about it, I always like, okay, on an average year, it's $50,000 to $400,000 is what our budget usually comes out of. And if you look at it, let's say a third of that is events or more, because maybe some years there's more coming in. But some years there might be a big project that comes out and that project is asking for, 5 years of payment going into the future or whatever. And you just carve off, the expectation of what that would be, or in the example of the city, just even longer term. Because I mean, barring anything like the Exxon Valdez running into Haystack Rock, we're probably going to have people coming into this town probably for, foreseeable future. So, all right, well, that's what I wanted to get out and have a discussion about today. And it sounds like everyone is interested in and on board. I don't know if there's details that need to be done to how the day-to-day stuff would change.
Doesn't sound like it because we would proceed as normal and then you guys would make your decision when we would meet to review the applicants. Did you guys notice my email that said how much is in the fund?
Yes,
I didn't,
600 and something,
I thought it was 630 or.
650,000.
a lot more than 400.
that's not the.
Oh,
That's our reserve. The entire fund.
That's your obligation.
Oh, okay.
to 22, 23 applicants.
Yeah.
Do you know what the reserve is right now?
That's your whole.
That's everything.
That's everything. Yeah, so if we take out what we owe people coming up for the rest of that cycle,
Yep.
you guys have 650,000 right now.
Yeah.
Last year was
To your
a
point.
very good year.
Yeah, no kidding.
And on average, it'll grow by 400 grand each year, assuming we didn't spend a dime.
Right,
Too bad these.
The 400 grows also.
right.
Well, it's variable.
Yeah, but I think it's like 50, 480 or something this year.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I just use the number.
Yeah, right.
Because one, it's variable, and two, over the last 5-10 years, it has grown just
Yeah.
because rates are going up and things like that. But
Wow.
yeah, so when we,
Guess that prepared food tax didn't scare them off.
Dang.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got confirmed letters from 2 people. They won't be back.
Oh, two.
Because of the food tax? Oh, my God. It's too much time on
They're
there.
gonna go because everyone else has it.
That's-
Yeah, other than cities and Oregon.
That's not counting the ones that said they're gonna leave town to eat, but they'll still come here.
Yeah. Good. Well, any other comments on that? I don't want to. Give it, yeah.
Say something I want to be respectful of this, or the outline.
Yeah.
How, can you tell me define how many bathrooms are in town and how many stalls? I'm just trying to get a vision of that.
I can get you a number.
Okay, yeah, because if you have 1,000 tourists.
Not enough.
Sometimes during the summer, where are they all going to the bathroom?
Across the street from my house.
Man.
Swear to God, man, this coming year, I'm gonna just sit on my porch with a pellet gun.
Yeah.
I'll fix that problem since the police don't seem to want.
I'll warn you about the pellet gun.
Be by Greg's.
I used to live here, and I used to come here, and so I just feel respectful of the tourists too. I do feel respectful of them, and the hotels I'm sure do too. So if I had to go to the bathroom really fast and I was waiting in line, how many well, I know down at Les Shirley, there's only like 3 stalls, I think. And, so I'm just trying to be compassionate to those who have to go to the bathroom and elderly or whatever too.
Yeah.
And they're our guests, so I want to just be respectful of them. I mean, that's kind of unkind to say you're shoot.
No, but there's no bathroom there is his point. It's the
It's
forest.
the four cross. the street from my house.
No. Clarify, Greg, that you're not going to shoot someone going into the
No, I won't shoot
bathroom.
one in the bathroom.
Savannah bathrooms, are those state?
Those are state.
They're state. So you have Les Shirley, you have Second Street Park, and then you have,
And here
That's it.
and down Second and Spruce.
Yeah,
I heard some horror stories about people going outside of the bathrooms and the people having to clean it up and the reality about the bathrooms and that they're messing them up and stuff. And it's my understanding that I haven't been updated on how many stalls are in this one.
Never been in them.
You're not a pro? You should know. all
Never
about-
been in
Oh, Just know where they are.
and then, well, on the guy's side, there's 3.
It might be 4 or 5.
4.
I never noticed it.
It's right behind the Legion.
Yeah, it's right around in.
Guys, there are only 3 or I think.
Maybe it's 4.
Like in addition.
I haven't been in years, so.
Okay, so 1,000 people in town one day,
Yeah.
where are they all going?
No, it's a problem.
Problem.
Woods too.
Our tourist population has outstripped our number of stalls, I think.
And I never realized how important it is until COVID and when you couldn't just bop into a McDonald's and go to the bathroom.
Right.
And then it's like, where are they?
Yep.
Not just here.
Greg's house.
everywhere.
My house.
Yeah.
I'm by my house, Greg.
That own a business next to it.
Across the street.
And man, I mean, people come in, it's like the bathrooms are filthy. It's like, well, I have a number to call. I call the people or the out of toilet paper. This happens July on a weekend. I've called I actually went to the city and said, can you give me the number of those people? Because they come into me and say, you guys are out of toilet paper. So I called them before and said, hey, the bathroom down by the Legion needs toilet paper. Or it needs to be cleaned and oh my God. And then there's the line there is too long. Oh
That's
God.
why we end up, in the middle of the city, we end up putting portlets in.
Well, the future is gonna grow, only grow, so. We have to look at the reality of that with tourism and the residents are gonna decline. So, I mean, that's the reality.
It's up in Orange Cave.
We're trying to work some beach restrooms into the Cannon Beach Elementary.
Oh.
Hmm.
So
There's nothing that far up.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, to clarify, Greg is not he was saying people were going to the bathroom in the forest. You were trying to be-
Not people in line for a bathroom. People
No.
in line for the tree across from my house.
Yeah, I mean, it's a known.
Body over there. I should, Hannah. That's a great idea.
He's in front of Greg's house. He would really appreciate it.
Yeah, put a quarter thing. Yeah.
You could make some money.
You see where the Tolavana State, that became a state park. It's now,
The wayside?
it's an authorized, you can park there like a rest area, you can stay there overnight.
Yeah.
And you can sleep overnight at Tolavana State Park now.
That's from, I think it was ODOT.
Yep.
So that, because there's people that were driving
Drowsy.
and it's long distance,
Yeah.
driving drowsy. And so there's a place you can go over, but then you got to get out.
Yep.
Yep.
The state maintains the bathrooms? Or we?
That's totally a state facility.
Yeah.
Even our beach access is on state property. I think we may own the driveway out there. to beach access,
So they're coming in and cleaning the bathrooms?
not as often as we do. We get a lot of the complaints are from that location.
But just treat it like Hug Point or Nicola, same thing. Yeah. So on that topic, are we all good? Good. Do you have any other topics anyone would like to bring up or go to the order?
So let me just, we selected March 13th as our next meeting at 1 o'clock. So at that meeting, we'll go through the forms, the timeline, the application, all of that information, so that way we can start, get it ready to go out the beginning of April to applicants. So at that meeting, if everyone can bring their schedule, we can select the rest of the dates. June is always a hard time. Yeah.
And I know.
Everybody but you two. June is always a hard time for everybody, so we'll try to get everything.
It's March 13th, Julie, our last one.
You'll be there.
Be there. Yeah, we're there March 13th.
Okay. Any other items going once, going twice?
No.
Then we will,
I move to adjourn.
so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Have a good afternoon.
Favor?
Thanks.
Bye, Ashley.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
See you later, Libby.
Bye, Libby.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.